Welcome to GCCars, my name is Eric and this is the 2021 Nissan Rogue SV. We've previously tested multiple competitors in the compact SUV segment, but while they were good, none of them really wowed me thanks to their age. With this Nissan Rogue being all new for 2021, can it finally take the crown in the compact SUV segment? That's what we're going to find out today. As always, first of all, we're going to take a look at the exterior, and then we're going to take a look at the interior, and then we're going to drive, and then we're going to sum it all up in the final thoughts and compare it to the aforementioned competition. We're starting off with the exterior, but before we do that, just a quick note, because this is a 2021 model year, there are a few changes compared to a 2022 Rogue SV. First of all, we have a premium package installed in that. That's an option. That's not available on the 2022 Rogue SV, because there's a Rogue SV Premium, which is pretty much the same thing, but it's just like a different trim level now officially, just so you know. And this has the 2.5 liter Inline-4, naturally aspirated Inline-4. The new SV, the 2022 SV, has the 1.5 liter turbocharged Inline-3. So there's a difference. Yours, if you get a 2022, will make a little more power. But with that being mentioned, let's start talking about the exterior. So this new Nissan styling, we've already seen like the Pathfinder and some others, and generally I think it looks pretty sharp, nice and angular, pretty aggressive, like most cars these days. The color here is polar white, which actually looks pretty nice and flaky in the sunlight, the way I like it. And what's really interesting here is that we have like a blacked out A-pillar, so it gives you like this floating roof design, right? So it makes it look like the roof is kind of not as much connected, makes that one unison piece, essentially the whole glass and pillar facade. Looks decent. And of course some plastic cladding down here, but I like how it's sculpted. Because up here we actually have a little lip in there and then goes back down, so it's not just like a straight line like at some other cars. Overall looks pretty good here as well, and I like this, just like we had on the Pathfinder. We have like a really nice big kind of like hip, I guess, like a hip where it gets a little wider and just makes the stance to look a little more aggressive again. And then the back, I like the back. First of all, we have a very angular design, just like in the front, but what we also have is the headlights. I like the shape we have in the headlights, and then it says Rogue, pretty big, and the trim, well, pretty good, honestly. I think it's one of the better looking compact SUVs on the road. But let's talk about the interior, because that's where right now some of the competitors we've had weren't quite as good. So let's see how the Rogue compares to them. Okay. After getting rid of the coat, let's talk about the Rogue SV's interior with the premium package. Speaking of the premium package, that gives you leatherette seats among other things, and these look and feel pretty nice. So these would be on the 2022 Rogue SV Premium, just so you know. But I do have an issue with these seats actually, because if I show you B-roll, you see these bolsters on like the top left, top right that kind of run down towards the center and then down the seat. They're a little uncomfortable, because what they do is when I'm sitting down, they kind of push my shoulders forward. So instead of sitting nice and straight, this is like a bit of a weird spot right now, sit like this. And that's not super comfortable, for me at least. Maybe it's just the way I'm built, 5'7", 125-ish pounds. So maybe they're just not built for me, but definitely check that out when you check out the Rogue. Other than that, I really like this interior though. It's actually pretty nice. So we got more softy leatherette like materials up here. Everything is nice. We got brown with black, so we do have some color accents and some variation in here. We got contrast white stitching around, and then instead of just using like glossy plastic, you have these, yeah, I don't even know how to describe it, kind of like machined plastic, which has lines in it, and it just looks a lot more creative. And it doesn't get as dirty. It doesn't look as dirty as quickly. You will still see dust on it, but not like fingerprints and stuff like that. So that is definitely a way better solution, and it just adds a little bit of flair. The steering wheel, this is the good steering wheel from Nissan. The one in the, I think it was in the Pathfinder, but in the Frontier and the Armada. I did not like that steering wheel because it was just old school, outdated. This one, much better integration of buttons. Feels well. I like the flat bottom steering wheel. We do have pedal shifters. I know we have a CVT, but we'll get to that when we drive. And then in the SV here we have analog gauges and a screen in the middle, which is plenty of information. Honestly, the digital gauge cluster you get in upper trim levels is nice, but you don't really lose any piece of information. We only have an 8-inch screen in here. You can get a bigger one in upper trim levels, but this 8-inch has wired Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, all you need. We don't have navigation, that's reserved for the higher models, but we do have Sirius XM, and that's not really neat. The cameras are good, so that I honestly don't have an issue with this. The 8-inch screen is fine. The contrasts are okay. It looks decent. It's just the infotainment sometimes when you start it going into audio can be a little slow. Physical control for our e-trick, which is important. Then we have phone holder. This SV doesn't have a wireless charger, but we have plenty of space to put that. And then we have a Happy Meal holder down here, which we always like. And yeah, no, honestly, this is decent. This is decent. Materials are nice, and compared to the other compact SUVs we've had so far, so Terrain, CR-V, Escape, this definitely wins out in interior front, at least, because it's just the most modern. And I would say with that, we're going to throw it over into the second row. So let's see if that holds up back there. Oh, and of course we have a big sunroof, right? Like a panoramic sunroof, which is really nice. But second row. Okay, second row. Of course, sitting behind myself, 5'7", plenty of space. But this is actually a good amount of space. Like even a tall driver with a tall passenger will have plenty of space, because this is more than I usually have, even sitting behind myself. Of course, just mentioned the sunroof. We do have a beautiful view of the sunroof from back here, and we even have integrated sunshades. So if you have passengers that either want to block out the sun for sleep, or you have maybe a baby in the back, this will come in handy. Then we do have pouches on both sides. We do have heated seats. We have USB-C and regular USB in the back. So there's plenty of connectivity as well. We have storage for like a big bottle you can easily store down here. And as always, we have cup holders just right here in the back. We do have the ability to recline. It's not too much though, just like that. So it's not that much, but it's still better than nothing. And there we go. Otherwise, here in the back, I'm pretty comfortable. Honestly, we still have nice materials, still soft. This is plastic instead of the leatherette we have up front, but that's fine, because you would mostly sit like this, and you would definitely be comfortable. So I like this. Let's take a look at the trunk, and then we're gonna go out on the road. Hello there. The trunk of the Rogue is actually pretty big. We have, like this, 36.5 cubic feet of space, but if we put down the second row seats, for which we have to come around to put them down, can't do it from back here, we have 74.1 cubic feet. That is just marginally less than the CR-V, which is actually a little bigger. So good job, very well packaged here, unlike some other compact SUVs we've recently had. We do have this little neat cover, this privacy cover, which you just need to put in properly, then you wouldn't have this issue. There you go, it's pretty easy. The only thing is, the idea to make it white sounded nice on paper, I bet, but it's actually pretty impractical, because we already have like black marks on here, and it just doesn't look that good. Unfortunately, it closes up with the headliner and the side here, but black would have just been a little better of a material to make sure that this keeps looking nice even in a few years. But not the biggest complaint. Obviously, other than that, unfortunately, no grocery bag hangers. We do have a few hooks to put things into, but grocery bag hangers are just easier to use. But no, honestly, this is fine. This is fine. Not the most practical, but we have plenty of space, which is important. But automatic tailgate. Let's go driving, shall we? Okay, now we're on the road here in the 2021 Rogue SV, and as always, we shall start it off with a launch. Let's put the CVT into sport and come to a stop to brake torque. Let's see. 9100. Let's go. 30, 40, 50. There we go. 60. You got it. Alrighty. Not the quickest, but the very interesting thing here is, of course, we do have a CVT, but it's still shifted. So, I mean, it technically didn't shift, but it faked shifts. And even if let's say we floor it now, see how it fakes the shifts in sport mode? And now if we go into normal mode, let's see if it does the same. Got the same acceleration, and yep, it's still fixed shifts. So if you really want to give it, if you really want to have some power and you want to accelerate, it will mimic a traditional torque converter automatic by shifting. Just a reminder, CVTs don't need to shift. Continuously variable gear ratios mean it can always stay in the power band. And I just find it very interesting because I know a lot of people, it's a fact that most buyers are kind of off-put by CVTs acting the most efficient way, which would be keeping constant RPMs. Personally, I myself to an extent too. So it's always kind of cool to see how they work around that while still using a CVT. But that doesn't mean that all the benefits from a CVT are gone. No, that's actually not the case, because in the city, the CVT, I like, in general, in daily driving, I like the CVT a lot. It is really good. And it's very nice in the city because you don't have any gear shifts or anything. So it's just constant torque, constant acceleration. If you pull it out of a parking lot or from a stoplight, and then you go to like the speed limit, which is 40 kilometers an hour in Toronto most of the time, so like 30 miles an hour probably for most places in the States. And it is very nice, and it's very effortless to just kind of constantly thrust your way up to the speed limit instead of having like multiple gear shifts in there. So it is definitely a lot smoother. But back to the acceleration real quick. So we do have a 2.5 liter naturally aspirated inline-4, like I said in this one. The next year's model, the 2022, has a different engine. Aspect, this produces 181 horsepower and 181 pound-feet of torque, and because it is naturally aspirated, it needs to rev pretty high to get that power. Like we were decent for like the first 20 kilometers an hour, first like 10 miles an hour. We had decent acceleration, but then it noticed like we ran kind of out of steam during that acceleration run. So it was noticeable that we don't have that much power. Just like the CRV, which I think had like 189 horsepower or something, also with the CVT. You do notice that in these kind of scenarios, you will run out of speed, but in daily driving, I never had that problem, I'll be honest. Yes, it is lower power than some other models and some other competitors, but I don't think it is an issue. The CVT, like I said, is very good in terms of driving. Nissan doesn't have the best reputation with CVTs though, so that is something you definitely need to consider. But this isn't the Jetco CVT. That's not the one where they had all the massive issues. So hopefully, wood on my watch, hopefully this one holds. But so far, I haven't heard of any issues really, and it's been very good during my time here. But we are on the classic terrible road where we test the suspension. So let's see how this Rogue SV handles rough roads. Ooh, very good, very good. Especially considering the price, this is more than decent, and that matches with how I feel when I drive this Rogue. The suspension is definitely on the softer side. If you push it, which I always push cars whenever weather's allows me to do it, because I need to find out the limits. I need to find how the vehicle reacts in as many situations as possible. You definitely notice that the suspension is soft, but it's not that bad. Even when you like, this one's easy to push. Just a side note, but handling really isn't that important. But what I meant to say is that it is very comfy, even over speed bumps in the city. It is very comfy. The car absorbs most of the bumps. Here, this is a really rough road, but I don't really feel too much. Yeah, the car goes up and down, and like my legs vibrate a little, but all the major disruptive vibrations and shocks get absorbed extremely well. So I'm very happy with that, and that also goes along with like the noise levels. The noise levels are really good in this Rogue. If you're on the highway, it is very quiet in the cabin. You won't have any issues listening to the stereo, which is alright in this SV, by the way. It's just not bad, but not great. So noise level, road noise is very well isolated. You hear a bit of the tires, but of course we have winter tires on it, so it's not quite comparable to summer tires. The only noise-wise complaint I have about this Rogue are really is the engine. The engine, if you kind of ask it for power, if you accelerate moderately, not even just full out acceleration, but even moderate acceleration, is sometimes a little noisy. The good thing about the CVT is it doesn't have to hold gears or anything, so as soon as you get off the throttle, it can drop the revs very, very quickly. But you will notice, like if you see a stop sign, you're taking the gap, you accelerate a little harder than you usually would, a very coarse sounding engine sits in front of you. I'm very curious to see how the 1.5 liter turbo is in that regard. I think in next year we're definitely going to take another look at the Rogue with the new engine, maybe like a Rogue Platinum or whatever. Then, but I'm curious how that performs, because 3 cylinders aren't necessarily better, but it's a turbocharged one, so it doesn't need to rev that high. But we'll see. So, but like this acceleration is still fun. But if there you go. You hear that? Not the greatest sounding engine. But this is just for very few seconds during your commute or during your drive. And the last thing I want to talk about is tech. And tech, even on this SV, is really good. We have adaptive cruise control. We have like emergency braking, lane keep assist. We have blind spot monitor. All the basic stuff, which I'm not really that interested in mentioning. But the really good thing is that even this SV comes with Nissan's semi-autonomous driving assist, which is the steering assist they have. So as soon as you put on the cruise control on the highway, you can get the steering assist, and it will steer for you and keep you automatically in the center lane. It's semi-autonomous, so you still have to stay in control. You have to keep your hands on the steering wheel. For a demonstration of that system, just click in the top right hand corner. As soon as my highway POV is uploaded, I'll show that to you there. But it is still, it's a very nice system. I think it works a little better than it did in the Pathfinder we've had recently. Maybe it's just because it's a little smaller and has an easier time placing it. It's still not the best system out there. Hyundai, Kia, Genesis have a better system. Ford has a better system. We had the Escape just recently, but it's still, especially in traffic jams or just kind of congested roads. If you're not going fast than 40 miles an hour on the highway, it is just so convenient. You put in the adaptive cruise control, so the car and it keeps up with everything that's happening around you, and then you have the steering assist. So even like bends and turns, it takes no issue whatsoever. So I love these systems, even when they're not the greatest. The only thing I would wish for, if it, just like Hyundai, Kia, Genesis, would allow me to have the steering assist on without using adaptive cruise control. Because sometimes there's situations where you need to fiddle with there's something important, you need to fiddle with that, or you need to, I don't know, your kid is just doing some very stupid thing and you need to intervene and you can't stop right now. So it is just in these scenarios, what I like to do is put on, in Hyundai, Kia, Genesis, I put on the steering assist. Of course, doesn't mean I look back all the time and not doing anything. I try to keep my focus on the road, but there's no denying that there's situations in which you can't all the time do that. And in those situations, it just gives you a little bit more safety. A little bit, the car watching out for you as well. I wish they would implement that, but otherwise, tech-wise, honestly, especially for the price, this is great. This is really good, and you won't need to complain, I think, about what the Rogue delivers here. But we summed up all the driving part really with that. Everything I wanted to talk about, we touched upon everything. So why don't we sum it all up in the final thoughts and compare to the competition that we drove already. Okay, final thoughts on the 2021 Nissan Rogue SV. And after spending a week with it, I must say I really like it. Even this mid-trim SV is it's very nice, honestly. Just summing up, I think the interior is good. I don't like the seats, but like the further I got into the week, the more I got used to it, to be fair. But still, like that's something you will have to check. Exterior wise, I think it looks pretty decent. Not my favorite compact SUV out there, but I think it looks decent overall, and definitely in the upper midfield for that. Driving, I like how it drives. I just like how it drives, and I think the tech it delivers, even at this mid-trim SV level, it is really good. So overall, 2 thumbs up from me. But let's compare them like I wanted to initially. I drove the Terrain, I drove the Honda CR-V, and I drove the Escape. The thing is, the CR-V and the Terrain were top. Well, no, the Terrain was kind of like a mid-trim level. The CR-V was a top trim, and the Escape was a top trim hybrid. So price-wise, this one undercuts them by like $10,000. S-Spec, this costs $38,628 Canadian. US dollar conversion is always somewhere on your screen. And for that price, it's not an apples to apples comparison. Comparing mid-trim to top trim, because naturally this Rogue delivers a better value. But you know what? Even if those other cars would be the same price, I would still take the Rogue. It just drives very nice, and the interior is really good and plushy and nice. And that's important to me. And that's what the Rogue delivers. So honestly, good job, Nissan. I think this is really good, But there's still other compact SUVs out there which we need to test, which we will do soon. Mazda CX-5, for example, just got refreshed, because really the biggest benefit the Rogue has is recency. Both the Escape and the CR-V and the Train, they're all quite a few years old and kind of due for a refresh. The Escape actually isn't that old, but still, this one just came out in 2021, so a bit of an advantage. But they did good. They did good. Anyhow, thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked the video. I hope it helped you decide on what kind of car you want to drive, or if you just had fun watching it. If you're just watching for fun, I upload videos every single week, and we review everything from compact SUVs to trucks to budget cars to luxury cars to sports cars. So we got it all. We got POV test drives as well. So yeah, if you like cars, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell, because every single subscriber that I get, first of all, costs you zero, nothing, no cost to you, and it helps me grow my channel, and that means I get better and cooler cars for you to show. Anyhow, thank you so much for watching. I would like to help. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you and goodbye.